Hello, my name is Jane. Just Jane. And I I, I've, I wanted to upload a video about my MS journey. Um, I am subscribed to some MS channels and stuff, and it's kind of something that that we all kind of do and share our journey, our story. So, and I'm doing this from a perspective of maybe you're newly diagnosed and you're looking for other people's experiences with, because MS, like, I don't know how much you know about it yet, but so I've put this thingy up here. So multiple sclerosis, and it can affect anything on your to do with your central nervous system. So your central nervous system is made up of your brain, your optic nerves, and then your spinal cord. So this is a list of main symptoms, okay? But that doesn't mean you're going to get all of these, okay? But, you might, pick and mix. Not pick and mix, you don't get to pick. But, so my story. So that's the thing. When you're first diagnosed, you're thinking, what the hell is this? And it's scary, right? So first of all, everybody's symptoms, everybody's journey, everybody's experience, the time it takes, everything is different. So, but then in a way that's life, isn't it? Like, no one ever really knows what's going to happen to them. So just carry on living your best lives for as long as you can. And a lot of stuff, just try and adapt to it as best you can and stuff. And reach out to support groups and stuff. The MS community, like I said, like everybody's journey is different. I've got relapsing, remitting MS. I'm going off piste now. So let's just get back to my story, because if you're recently diagnosed, or then so let me tell you about mine. So I had an instance of optic neuritis in late 2007. Now that I basically went like pretty much blind in one eye. Like my vision, it was just grey. I lost all colour contrast. It was just grey. I couldn't really see anything out of one eye. So I went to my doctor. No, I didn't. I think I went to an ophthalmologist actually, and then I think that's right. I was trying to remember this earlier and I couldn't remember. And then he referred me to a neurologist. Yeah, that's right. I didn't get referred through my GP. I had the problem with my vision. I went to an ophthalmologist, and the ophthalmologist referred me to the neurologist, and the neurologist sent me for an MRI. I had the MRI, and I also went for some tests at like an ophthalmology centre or whatever, and they looked at my optic nerve and they confirmed, yeah, optic neuritis. So initially, late 2007, and I had optic neuritis. When the MRI came back, it showed that I had previous scarring. So this was my at least second. I had scarring on both optic nerves. So I'd had multiple instances of optic neuritis prior. But the only time that I can think of a noticeable difference to my vision was probably in around 2000, 2001, which I never specifically went to the GP about my vision. So, but I do remember that I had an issue with my vision, but I just thought, I've poked something in my eye, I scratched my eyeball, whatever, it cleared up. Right, so 2007, I'm pretty much blind in one eye, diagnosed with optic neuritis, referred to a neurologist, had an MRI, admitted to hospital, given IV steroids over 3 or 4 days. They tried to do a lumbar puncture, a spinal tap lumbar puncture, because they wanted to test the spinal fluids to see, because if you test the spinal fluids during an active episode of multiple sclerosis, you can get a definite diagnosis, because stuff crosses the blood-brain barrier or something. But I think the anaesthetologist that tried to do the lumbar puncture was new or something, or trainee, and there was this point where I had this, like, she was sticking all these needles in my back, and then I had this shooting pain around my hip, and I was like, oh no, tap out, no, forget this. So I didn't. Okay, so at that point, optic neuritis, IV steroids. Now the IV steroids worked really well, and I probably got about 95% of my vision back. And I had this presumptive diagnosis of MS hanging over my head, and I went for a follow-up MRI a year later in late 2008. Or maybe, I think I did. It doesn't matter. I had another instance of optic neuritis in 2009, and I definitely had an MRI at that time, and I was given steroids again. And at that time, the neurologist said to me, yeah, we're going to give you we're going to say it's multiple sclerosis, because you've got recurring optic neuritis and lesions, and I didn't have a lot of brain lesions. I had some small ones, but lesions on the brain don't necessarily mean multiple sclerosis, right? Because people can have lesions on their brain for multiple reasons, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have issues just because you've got lesions on your brain. It depends how big they are, it depends where they are, it depends on a lot of things. I'm not a neurologist, I won't pretend to understand, but don't freak out. If your MRI shows lesions, don't freak out. That doesn't in itself. Okay? Right, so 2000 and late 2007, steroid treatment, another one in 2009, which I think showed more scarring on my optic nerves. Like, basically, I was having a lot more instances of optic neuritis than I even realised. And then I had another follow-up MRI in 2012, and I think the MRI actually showed that I had optic neuritis at the time that I went for the MRI, and I just didn't even. I was having optic neuritis nearly all the time, and I didn't even necessarily know. Excuse me. 2007, if I got 95% of my vision back in 2007, then in 2009 I probably got 75, 80% of my vision back. But the main thing I was having issues with at that time was headaches and stuff, I guess because my vision was changing. And yeah, so yeah, we should probably talk about this language, because you won't be familiar with it. And to be fair, I'm not massively familiar with it either. And it kind of changes. So you might hear things like attacks, relapses, flare-ups, and like so if I was diagnosed, if I don't know, accepted or went with accepted that I actually had the MS in, say, 2009. Say 2009, I thought, right, so I'm 2009 and now it's 2024. So there's quite a lot of years later, right? To me, if somebody says attack, to me an attack is an instance where you have a new part of your central nervous system is attacked and you have new symptoms. And some of those for me, I can tie them back to a viral infection that probably triggered my immune system. A relapse, relapses for me, I think they tended to happen at like change of season. But like I used to live in Cyprus, so that used to be quite a heavy swing between temperatures and then also high pressure to low pressure. I don't know. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not claiming to be. I'm just trying to share my personal experience. But attack for me is something that causes new damage. And if you were to have an MRI at that time, it would show inflammation. MRI with contrast or something. It would show inflammation in your brain in the areas that are being affected. And then a relapse is like a worsening of existing symptoms, but nothing new, no new symptoms. And then a flare up for me is like when I have my period, or if I'm not well from something else, and it's just, to me, like, I don't know, like, say that's like a shorter thing. I don't know though. Flare up, relapse, attack. I think a lot of these terms, and I did ask my neurologist, I've asked different people about it, they're all pretty interchangeable. I don't think any of it, just when you speak with your neurologist, when you're speaking with your primary caregiver, whatever, just make sure that you're both speaking from the same page. My experience at this point has taught me that what people are mostly concerned about is new symptoms, and then obviously like worsening, because you can have worsening of existing symptoms without having any new symptoms. So that's why I separate between like an attack and a relapse. Anyway, I'm digressing. Right, so let's recap. 2007, optic neuritis. Possibly I had an instance in 2000, 2001, but it was never diagnosed because I never reported it or did any, I just didn't. But then my MRIs showed that in 2000, when I had the MRIs in 2007, it showed that I'd had previous scarring and I already had some lesions in my brain, but the scarring on my optic nerves, so I probably had previous instances. And then all my like follow-up MRIs, like my optic nerves were just getting worse. So then I got tested for Devick's disease because at that time my MS was mostly attacking my optic nerves. So there is this thing called Devick's disease, which, well, it's like MS, but it only does your optic nerves. And that was just a blood test to check for that, and that was negative. So they came back with, multiple sclerosis. And like I said, I never had the lumbar puncture, the spinal tap, to do the confirmation of multiple sclerosis, because you can only do that when the disease is active. And I think by that time, the repeated optic neuritis and the increasing lesions didn't seem to be causing me any trouble. It just confirmed multiple sclerosis. Right, so 2007 2009 optic neuritis, 2012 optic neuritis. And then in late, I think it was 2013, I think I contracted the norovirus, or a gastric flu, something like that. But after that cleared, I was still having problems with my vestibular system. So, like vertigo type symptoms, and just a lot of balance issues. And so I did have I'm not sure if I had the MRI in the UK or if I had the MRI in Cyprus, but that's when I started to get lesions around my vestibular area. So, and then so that was 2013, and then my next, what I call, attack was 2015. Now that, I can't tie that to anything. I'm not sure about that one. But 2015, and I was in Cyprus, and yeah, I had I went back to the hospital for IV steroid treatment, and after that I picked up tremors. So my main symptoms are vision, which has, I've had repeated optic neuritis, right? So it's just slowly declined over time with varying amounts of recovered vision after IV steroid treatment. And then the vestibular stuff, and then eventually 2015 tremors. So my life, like if I was diagnosed say my first, maybe, if they'd have done the lumbar puncture in 2007, then I would have had the diagnosis then. 2007, 2008, I carried on working. My life did not really noticeably change for me until 2015. And I never made a full recovery after that. So I was still working at the time. I used to drive, I used to work, full-time work, I used to and towards my boss, I had a really good boss at that time, and we were doing a phased return to work after 2015, and I never made it back to full-time work after that last attack. And so by the end of 2016, I wasn't driving anymore, and I didn't work anymore. So the driving, like my visual fields at that time, they would have been okay for me I could have reported them like to the British DVLA, and I still would have been allowed to drive. But driving's not just about vision, is it? You've got to be able to check over your shoulder, and so the vestibular stuff was giving me an issue. And then, changing gear and stuff, the tremors were giving me an issue. and then I was having an issue with processing visual information as well. So I decided to stop driving because I didn't feel it was safe for myself or other road users. And in 2015 through 2016 as well, like at that point my reading was just not, it was not good enough to keep working, functioning in the job that I'd functioned in before, because I would misread emails. I was having difficulty comprehending, reading and comprehending complicated emails, large emails. I started to have cognitive issues. But then because I was working, I was on an anti-fatigue drug, Modiadal or modafinil, and I don't know if that was like affecting my ability to concentrate on my memory and stuff. I don't know, but just, and the other main issue I had with working was the tremors. You know, I used to sit at my desk and have full body tremors. I'm on medication for the tremors now, propranolol. Since I've reduced a lot of stress from my life, the tremors are much better, and I haven't really had full body tremors for maybe 2 or 3 years. So that's the other thing, right, is the symptoms, and this is the whole thing with flares, attacks, relapses, flares. Things can come and go. I mean, they don't go permanently, but, they get worse. But just because it gets worse, it doesn't mean it's going to stay like that, God willing. And if you're taking care of yourself, God willing, hopefully, it will get better. It doesn't mean, and so that was 2015, 2016, my life changed. And now it's 2024, and I don't believe that I have any new symptoms. My last MRI was, I think it was in like probably 2020. I'm visually impaired now. But that's just my journey, right? But it's quite slow, and it's mostly, so my motor function is mostly okay. The only thing that puts me back is I can't see stuff, my balance isn't good, and the tremors. So my movements can be a bit erratic and, fine, picking up change, carrying trays, reaching for things. I burn myself a lot if I'm cooking, but we're not talking about that. What I'm trying to say is it's 2024 now. Yeah, my life changed in 2015, 2016. I don't think I did enough to reduce stress in my life. I think the best advice I can give anyone who's like newly diagnosed is eat well. Like, go for like a Mediterranean diet or something. You need as many vegetables, preferably containing vitamin B. Vitamin B, just load up on vitamin B. If you're not to take supplements, vitamin B, feed your brain. Oily fish. But if you can do stuff through diet, do it through diet, and if you need the supplements as well, okay, but you want to do as much through diet as possible. You want to avoid processed foods and additives, and you want to exercise. You want to try and keep your exercise levels up. Your flexibility, do Pilates, do yoga, do stretching, just do walking, okay? It doesn't have to be, you're not trying to compete in the Olympics for a triathlon or anything. Just stay active as long as you can. be, and don't panic, okay? I think they're on second generation drugs now. Yeah, the first generation stuff was all injection based, and now they're on second generation drugs, which I think they're all pill format. So straight away that's an advantage because you don't have to inject yourself frequently, right? And then the IV stuff, if you do have an attack, if something is affecting, if you're having a new symptom, or if there's an existing symptom that has worsened and it's affecting your ability to conduct your daily life, then I think you should speak to your doctor, your neurologist. And if you're having a flare-up, the thing with the steroids is it doesn't change the end outcome, but it does help the symptoms clear up quicker. That's my understanding anyway. So, and the IV steroids, they can do that stuff on an outpatient basis. It takes about 4 to 6 hours, and they just hook you up to some steroids for three or 4 days. You know, you could potentially be back at work in a week, you know. And like at the beginning, I had really good recovery. The steroid treatments sorted me right out. Then you've got some other issues with taking steroids, so watch yourself, because steroids make you feel like you can rule the world or something. Don't overcommit yourself, and stay away from salt and carbohydrates, pasta and stuff. Otherwise, because I gained a lot of weight when I was on the steroids. But it is like you can live with it, and just take other don't take other people's advice. I don't mean that. Yeah, sure. Listen to other people's stories. Like, I mean, it's weird, right? Because put my actual journey aside for a bit, and the path that took, and the time that it happened, and the things that are affected for me, right? And then, like, when I did get diagnosed, or when I had that attack in 2007, like, I had made some, like, I reckon I probably had an attack in 2000, 2001, going on like my MRIs and stuff, and previous scarring on my optic nerves, right? But I hadn't, and you'll probably relate to this, right? I hadn't felt well. I didn't feel like everybody else seemed to have loads of energy, and things used to sort of I used to get wiped out easily, and I don't know. So I'd like changed jobs. I mean, I'd quit my job. I moved country. I was having all of, it makes me sound like a hypochondriac. I was having these tests done. I found out I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And one of the things, I was borderline anemic. I was looking for reasons why I would have been low on energy, and like having fatigue and stuff. And I don't know. But I mean, it's not like I suppose what I'm saying is I didn't feel like 100% before I got diagnosed, but picking up that, because when I was diagnosed in 2007, before that, I'd been on the beach and I'd picked up this rash, and I'd been to a dermatologist, and they'd said to me, "Oh, this is this viral infection, very common on beaches." So I'd had a viral infection before the 2000s. I'd had a viral infection before the 2013. The 2015 one, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. So anyway, basically, like, that's my story. So it's not a very good story. It's my second attempt. The first one I just rambled. Anyway, look, I wish you all the best. educate yourself, educate, join a support group, and then as it starts, oh god, that sounds terrible,